Good morning. I made a comment on Air Friday about protesters and the weather that was insensitive and poorly timed, and I'm sorry. It was a misguided attempt at humor, and while it was never meant with any ill intent or political affront, I absolutely and wholeheartedly want to apologize to those who genuinely were hurt or offended by it. 9 to Noon doesn't formulate political opinions. We don't bash or praise political discussions or even focus on political issues. This time slot always has been a sports-centered space built to entertain, a place where we chat about sports, offer an escape from the heavy stuff, and give listeners the distraction they need from everything else going on. As I've stated many times before, we serve you, not the other way around. We're very fortunate, and thank you for counting on us as long as you have. It means more than you'll ever know. My best was lacking Friday, and for that I am sorry. I am taking a few days off, but wanted to express these thoughts and my sincere apology with you before I do. We thank our friend Paul Charchian for handling 9 to Noon today.
Minnesota, Paul Charchian with you. It is wonderful to be back. Minnesota talking football. It's been too long. I didn't have the luxury of every Friday and the football feast to talk about all things Vikings every single week. And I couldn't be more excited to be back on the air. KFAN, I have missed you. Did not have the opportunity to be on as much as I wanted to said during the year. But we have a great opportunity to catch up now. I know there is so much happening in Minnesota, so much happening around all of us every day. It's weighing on everybody. And like everybody, I think I've got right answers, some kind of special insight that appears obvious to me, but apparently is not to everybody. But that is not what this show is going to be about today. We are going to focus on 3 hours of fun sports, Vikings, Super Bowl, football, whiskey. For 30 years, my role at the station, for better or worse, has been fun guy. You know, it's been fantasy football, which is fun, mostly fun. It's not always fun. It's mostly fun. Especially when you win. Video games, fun. Board games, fun. Whiskey, fun. We're going to have a great show. We're going to take our minds off of more serious things and talk a lot of football for the next 3 hours. Brett Blakemore joining me. Hi, Brett.
Hi, Charchie. How are you?
Good. Your favorite team season ended 1 week later than my favorite team. Yeah, tragically. Your defensive coordinator is gone. Later on in the show, I think we'll touch on that a little bit and how you feel about that. But I'm glad to have you along for this one. We opened the show with a little CCR, and not going to spend a lot of time on this, but CCR has always been a band that I've felt very indifferent toward, but I know Common loves. And he and I, years back, have sparred about CCR. Just learned a ton about CCR in my 500 Songs, the history of rock and roll in 500 Songs podcast. They just dropped an episode on CCR. Learned a ton. Didn't know the whole band. The whole band hated John Fogerty, and he hated his whole band. So much fascinating drama with that band. But man, could they make hits. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on CCR. In fact, virtually no more time on CCR, but they were, for a period of about a year and a half, second only to the Beatles in terms of a hit-making operation. It was unreal. It's an amazing story. Someday I'm going to cross Common on air, and we're going to break down some CCR. But first, in this show, we are going to break down the 2 football games from yesterday. They were both epic in totally different ways. You're going to hear what I believe to be the ultimate Darnold diatribe coming up. We are finally going to say it in the form of a declarative statement. The Vikings made a mistake by not signing Sam Darnold. Period. No equivocating. No, well, what happens with J.J. McCarthy? Nothing. No probablys, no maybes, no ifs. The Vikings made a mistake by not signing Sam Darnold. We will talk through that a fair amount over the course of the show. I want to talk about J.J. McCarthy a little bit later as well. I haven't had a chance to spend time with him. One of my favorite people from the fantasy industry is Sigmund Bloom. He's a co-owner at Football Guys. He's got a fantastic podcast called On the Couch. And Sig's been on the station many times. I have him on about once a year. I'm going to bring him on at 11 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, Fred Minnick, also somebody I've had on the station many times, America's premier whiskey expert. He's got 2 podcasts, The Fred Minnick Show and Fourth and Neat, co-starring Jared Allen. Fred and Jared Allen have their own podcast. We'll talk about his new book called Bottom Shelf, which is the story of Old Crow whiskey. And he wants to throw some love to our local distilleries, Brother Justice and Keeper's Heart. We'll hear from Fred Minnick a little bit later in this show as well. So a lot of things that have transpired here just in the last 24 hours. Let's start, Brett. Patriots, Broncos. And I don't think you can start by talking about a Bronco loss without celebrating that Sean Payton is not going to the Super Bowl. Now that is something that all Minnesotans can agree upon. Sean Payton will not be in the Super Bowl, and that is a great day for all mankind. You know, we had such great playoff run. We had, through the 3 weeks of the playoffs, we had 8 different games that finished within one score. We only had 2 blowouts. Houston rolled Pittsburgh, and the Seahawks obliterated the 49ers. I mean, if you have watched these playoffs and did not enjoy it, you do not like football. I don't think there's any, I just don't think you enjoy football. These games were by and large they were fantastic games. Would have obviously preferred that the Vikings would have been a part of it. And there's still a little part of me that believes, had the Vikings chosen basically any other path at quarterback, the Vikings would be in the playoffs. But that's kind of loser talk. The reality is the win total wasn't there. They're 1 away from making the playoffs. 1 win away from making the playoffs. The reality is they did not. But an absolutely fantastic set of playoff games. Let's start Patriots, Denver. Only 17 points in the game, 10-7. And the game's going to be remembered as snow completely changing the complexion of the game. For the first 2/3 of the game, there was no snow at all. Field conditions were fine. And then, as Denver is wont to do, the snow came, and it came hard. And both of the offenses could not do anything. Denver managed just 32 yards in the second half of the game. 32. And it wasn't even snowing for all 32. Jared Stidham was part of the problem. The running game could never get on track. Patriots defense, way better than people think it is even now. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the show as well. Drake May, he should win MVP. He's looked fantastic. You know, I don't know how much truth there was to the much reported idea that the Vikings tried to move to pick 3 to get Drake May. I would like to believe it's true, because that suggests that the Vikings front office correctly identified Drake May as a great player. But at the same time, based on what we know now about Drake May, as he is heading to the Super Bowl in his second year, the Vikings should have paid whatever the price was. Whatever it was that the Patriots wanted, you should have paid it. The reports that I have seen is they wanted 2 first-rounders, a defensive starter, and an offensive starter. The correct answer was, sure, name your starters. Drake May is fantastic. He was the leading rusher in the game yesterday with 65 yards. Actually, Ramondre Stevenson had a few more yards. He has thrown the ball incredibly well, led the NFL in completion percentage, despite the fact that he had the third deepest average pass. Those two stats generally only correlate negatively. Those people who throw downfield do not throw downfield with a high completion percentage, but not Drake May. And Drake May's doing it with the league's most vanilla set of receivers, Pop Douglas, Stephon Diggs, who's clearly still not right from last year's ACL, and at his age might never be the same player again, Kayshon Boutte, Mac Hollins, Kyle Williams, and yet Drake May is on the cusp of winning MVP, and he is going to the Super Bowl. And I think if we're going to talk Patriots Denver, let's talk about Mike Vrabel. This is the ultimate example of how you have to get the coaching staff right. Remember last year, Jared Mayo was hired very quickly. The team had 4 wins and they fired Jared Mayo. They moved on. They knew the Patriots and Robert Kraft knew they had made a mistake. And they flipped the script instantly and they got Mike Vrabel, who obviously they knew well. Vrabel had been a Patriot during his playing career. They played against Vrabel many times as the head coach of the Titans. By the way, side note on Vrabel with his time at the Titans and the Titans organization, Vrabel in one season with the Patriots now has more wins than the Titans have had since they fired Mike Vrabel 3 years ago. Vrabel had one really interesting decision in that game. Down the stretch, his team is up 10-7. I mentioned earlier, snow's falling like crazy. It's turned into, they were using the term blizzard. I'm not going blizzard because Minnesotans know what a real blizzard is. It was just heavy snowfall. But the snowfall was bad enough that you could not see the yard lines. It was funny watching, I think it was Jim Nantz for this one. Nantz is trying to reset between plays. Ball is at the 32-yard line, whatever. He doesn't know what the yard line is because you can't tell. You can't see the yard lines. They were trying to blow off every 5th line with a snowblower. But that didn't work very well. You didn't really know was it 3rd and 3 or was it 3rd and 5? You don't know. Can't really tell. None of the yard lines could be seen. Vrabel up 3 points. In the fourth, basically for the entire fourth quarter, stopped trying to score. He simply ran the ball 3 times and punted. Run, punt, run, punt, run, punt. Because Vrabel was so confident that Jarrett Stidham and the Denver Broncos would not be able to score any points. And I believe he thought his defense was going to be has a better chance of scoring in those conditions than his offense did. Now, if you rewind the clock a little bit to earlier in the game with Sean Payton, and again, we love it when bad things happen to Sean Payton. He may have cost his team the win. On 4th down, trailing 7-0, early in the game, maybe early second quarter if memory serves. It's 4th and 1 on the Patriots' 14-yard line. Now, 4th and 1 in the NFL in the past 5 years, and thanks mostly to Dan Campbell, has evolved into it. You always go for it. Always. And sure enough, Sean Payton, despite having Jarrett Stidham as his quarterback and some impending bad weather, on 4th and 1 from the Patriots' 14-yard line, decided to go for it. it would have been a chip shot field goal with a 95% make rate. And as the final score of 10-7 indicates, the 3 points were really important. Later in the game, Stidham, who played okay early, and he completed one long bomb to Marvin Mims, and he wasn't awful, but he was also not great. Stidham at one point got pressure in the pocket, shifted a little bit to his right, and then had a backward pass. We think he was trying to intentionally ground the ball, but Stidham threw backwards under pressure. Patriots came up with the ball, and that was basically the end of the game for the Broncos. Now, for Broncos fans, this AFC Championship game stings. Brutal. They're home field throughout. They're the number one seed, and there's no Patrick Mahomes to get in their way. No Mahomes. No Chiefs, no Andy Reid. For the last 9 years, it's been Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs, and Andy Reid. For the next 9 years, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and the Chiefs that you got to get through. This was the year that a great defense could deliver a Super Bowl to Denver, and Sean Payton came up short. Mike Vrabel, at the end of the game, I love this, said about his players, "There's no curfew tonight, but the team bus leaves at 8 a.m., and if you're not on it, you're not playing in the Super Bowl." I love that. That is fantastic. Patriots win 10-7. Drake May's head to the Super Bowl. Let's hit the other game. And we're not going to use up all our Sam Darnold ammo. That's going to come next segment. But I do want to talk through Rams Seahawks. Sam Darnold, Matthew Stafford in one of the great playoff quarterback duels of all time. And that is not prisoner of the moment hyperbole. What Darnold and Stafford just did was epic. Now, I said Sam Darnold brilliantly dueled Matthew Stafford. I didn't say he out-dueled Matthew Stafford. His team did win the game. But Matthew Stafford was fantastic. They both were. 6 combined touchdowns. They each threw 3. No interceptions for either quarterback. 700 passing yards. They both had right around 350. They had an identical passer rating of 127. Darnold and Stafford. Somebody had to lose. It was Stafford. He becomes the first quarterback to throw for 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and lose a playoff game. It had never happened before in the Super Bowl era of 55 years or something like that of Super Bowl era playoffs. And credit Sam Darnold, and we're going to talk a lot more about Sam in a minute. He's faced this Rams team 4 times in basically a year. Sean McVay is arguably the best coach in football. And we know what McVay did to Darnold last year as a Viking. The fact that Sam Darnold has back-to-back wins against the Rams, incredibly awesome for Sam. The game opened with a bomb to Rashid Shaheed. Now, for those of you that have not tracked this very closely, Rashid Shaheed has been the trade deadline acquisition of Rashid Shaheed might be the reason, the catalyst, the one little extra thing that Seattle needed to go from good to great. Shaheed as a kick returner has been electric. Rashid Shaheed as a receiver has stretched opposing defenses in a way that Cooper Kupp and Jake Bobo and even Jackson Smith-Njigba was not, because Shaheed is vertical speed. And on the very first drive, and the play call was brilliant, bomb from Darnold to Rashid Shaheed. And that told the Rams, and was successful, and that told the Rams they had to guard the deep part of the field. And when you have to guard deep, it's going to open up stuff underneath, and it did all game. Now, Stafford ended up answering with a bomb of his own to Puka Nacua. Both Nacua and Jackson Smith-Njigba was the amazing subplot. We talked about Sam Darnold and Matthew Stafford just trading blows. They were doing it with Puka Nacua and Jackson Smith-Njigba as their wingmen. Nacua finishes 9 catches, 165 yards. Jackson Smith-Njigba, 10 catches, 153 yards. Epic. Absolutely epic. Much of that Rams-Seahawks game will be defined by one of the dumbest plays in playoff memory. And it nearly, and maybe should have, cost the Seahawks the game. Cornerback Tyreek Woolen, who just, I think, prefers Reek Woolen, he broke up a pass play to Puka Nacua. And he did a great job breaking up the pass play to Puka Nacua. But then Woolen starts cocking off at the Rams bench. And eventually, so much so that he's into their sideline. And he's trading verbal jabs with the coaching staff and the players that are there. Ref tries to get him to stop, and the ref is telling him to stop and to get out. Woolen doesn't listen. He keeps the verbal tirade going. It was 4th and 12. 4th and 12. Woolen gets the personal foul. It turned it into a first down and 15 more yards, and the very next play, Sean McVay, with ice in his veins, goes right after Tariq Woolen, who at that point is, I think, still mentally on the previous play, badly trailing Puka Nacua, wide open. Stafford hits Nacua, touchdown on the next play. And at that point, it went from a 2-point game to, I believe, a 2-score game to a 4-point game. Tyreek Woolen should have been the GOAT of that game, but Seattle ended up rallying for the win. Colby Parkinson dropped a sure touchdown late in the game in which he absolutely would have scored, and that would have given the Rams the lead. Instead, the Rams had to work their way down the field, went for it on 4th and goal, and came up short. The Parkinson drop will be remembered by Rams fans. Kenneth Walker was fantastic in this game, both as a runner and a receiver. Chipped in over 110 total yards both ways. He looked great. We forget how good Kenneth Walker is because they use a true timeshare in Seattle. And with Zach Charbonnet out, Walker getting all the work, you get reminded that guy is really, really good. Jackson Smith-Njigba, second most yards in playoff history for the Seahawks, just feasted on the Rams zone coverage all game. And I'll note this, which I thought was pretty interesting. The Seahawks defense, so good all year and good at everything. Great run defense. They can attack the opposing passer. Great at generating pressure. They've got good cornerbacks, good at everything, really. The 2 games in which the Seahawks allowed the most yardage, 581 yards and 479 yards, both came against the Rams, and Seattle won them both. Very impressive. Very, very deserved win for the Seahawks. Clint Kubiak might walk out of this with a head coaching job, former Viking coach, and that is, it'd be hard to say he would not deserve it. And I think, frankly, he'd be more deserving than some people had already got. jobs. And there are still four open jobs, which is amazing at this late stage. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, it's the Sam Darnold diatribe you've been waiting for. The Vikings made a mistake. Period. No qualifiers. The Vikings made a mistake by not signing Sam Darnold. We'll talk it through when we come back to the Fan.
If you want to chime into what's happening to your favorite KFAN shows, you can. You can make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. So let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. It's 64686. Standard text message, data rate supply.
Fantastic games. Again, if you didn't enjoy this playoff run, you don't like football, and I don't know who you are, and we can't be friends. It was 2 great days of football. But the lead story, I think, for virtually everybody listening is Sam Darnold. I want to approach this this topic this way. Finally, it has to be said in the form of a declarative, unequivocal statement. The Vikings made a mistake by not signing Sam Darnold. No use of qualifying words like probably or maybe or time will tell or if. Anybody who believes the Vikings made the right decision to let Sam Darnold go is, I think, delusional and is doing so entirely without fact. Just stubborn faith in some combination of Kevin O'Connell, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, and J.J. McCarthy. A belief that apparently J.J. McCarthy will also lead the team to a Super Bowl, and apparently more of them. I said last segment, given the way the Vikings defense played in the second half of this year, which was amazing, if this team had decided to go with Sam Darnold, it is not impossible to think the Vikings would be the ones headed to the Super Bowl. Probably not. But at least the opportunity would have been there. The Vikings defense, spearheaded by Brian Flores, who was brilliant in the second half of the season, was good enough to win any game. And as Sam Darnold has now proven repeatedly, so is he. I think there are still people out there who feel like they are a mini Rob Brzezinski And these cap cowards just can't imagine a scenario where a team with Sam Darnold's contract can get to the Super Bowl, despite the fact that Sam Darnold is going to the Super Bowl. These cap cowards believe the only route is to draft a young quarterback like Drake May and then have him be great early, and then he goes to the Super Bowl. And that is a proven pathway. You can do it that way. That is obviously not the only pathway. And at some point in short order, Drake May is going to be a very expensive quarterback. Drake May will become the highest paid quarterback in the league probably about 14 months from now. If you want to have quarterbacking greatness, good enough to go to and win Super Bowls, eventually you have to pay that quarterback. You want to pay that quarterback to have greatness. The Vikings had Sam Darnold. Let's talk about the narrative on Sam Darnold. If we just go back 12 months, 13 months, when his season is ending with Minnesota. You all know this. Sam won 14 games. He got buried in week 18 against Detroit. And then for the final game of the Vikings season last year, the wild card game against the Rams, it was an avalanche, 9 sacks. In fact, I've got the numbers here. Let me see if I've got them right in front of me. In the week 18 game against the Lions, in which the Vikings could have locked down the number 1 seed, Sam Darnold had 33 hurries, hits, and sacks in one game against the Detroit Lions. And then the next week against the Rams, they registered 43 hurries, hits, and sacks on Sam Darnold, and almost all Viking fans blamed Sam Darnold. The narrative was Sam Darnold can't win the big game. I don't think Joe Montana would have survived a 2-game stretch with 76 quarterback pressures. That narrative was wrong and has been proven wrong by Sam Darnold. Everybody who threw that out, you were wrong. It's almost like the 14 wins never happened. The majority opinion from Viking fans was to move on and give J.J. McCarthy the chance that comes with the draft equity. The draft equity was a huge component to this. 10th overall player taken. He's super young. Promising tool set. And here's the part that frustrates me. Old timers like me. The Kirk Cousins apologist in me coming through right now. You can't just manufacture really good quarterbacks out of thin air. Before Kirk Cousins brought 6 years of stability to the quarterback position, 6 years, we suffered through these leading passers for Minnesota. And this is where the old guys come in. Going backwards pre-Kirk Cousins, we did Case Keenum for a year, Sam Bradford for a year, Teddy Bridgewater for 2 years, Matt Castle for a year, Christian Ponder for 2 years. Then we had the bad year of Favre. We had a good year of Favre. Gus Frerotte, Tavares Jackson, 2 years of Brad Johnson. Now we're all the way back to 2004, 20 years ago. And the only stable quarterback that we had was Kirk Cousins. People think it's easy to find great quarterbacking. It's really, really hard. Just even competent quarterbacking is really hard. This team had good to great quarterbacking with Sam Darnold. and let those final 2 weeks of last year and the draft equity that they had put into J.J. McCarthy, sunk cost, change their opinions, and they went with J.J. McCarthy. During those years, the Keenum years, the Bridgewater years, the Castle years, the Ponder years, the Gus Frerotte years, the Tavares Jackson year, we'd have begged. We were begging for a quarterback just like Sam Darnold. A quarterback who can throw for 4,300 yards and 35 touchdowns, like Sam Darnold did for the Minnesota Vikings. Last year, Sam Darnold won the Pro Football Writers' Most Improved Player Award. Kevin O'Connell, in part because of what he was able to do with Sam Darnold, becomes Coach of the Year. He gets anointed quarterback whisperer. But that wasn't good enough for us. Nope. We turned our back on Sam. That narrative was set. Can't win the big game. 90% of the people listening right now believe Sam Darnold would pumpkin under pressure. So he goes to Seattle. We let him walk, and you know what's going to happen, but I'm going to outline it anyway. Sam Darnold was healthy all year. Sam Darnold played every game. He threw for 4,000 yards and 25 touchdowns on a balanced team. 4,000 yards is nothing to laugh at. The Bears still don't have a 4,000-yard passer in the history of the organization. Jackson Smith and Jigba catching balls from Sam Darnold, leads the NFL in receiving yards and becomes a superstar. Even as late as week, I believe, 16, when Seattle played the Rams, we were all being assured, mostly by Vikings fans, that Sam Darnold was going to pumpkin in big games. If you remember that Rams game for Seattle, week 16, that was the one that was going to basically decide who was going to be the 1 seed in the NFC. Epic game. Hugely important. Sam Darnold and the Seahawks won. And even after beating the Rams in week 16 to put themselves on a path to the number 1 seed, there were still people who said, well, Sam didn't do enough in that game. Sam wasn't good enough. You watch. He's going to turtle in the playoffs. Seattle ended up winning the final 7 regular season games when they entered the playoffs. And, you know, the goalposts got moved by the Darnold haters at remarkable speed. You know, first it was Darnold wasn't good enough to begin with. Then it was he's going to lose in big games. And then it was Seattle doesn't give him enough protection. He's going to wither under heat. Then it was, he can't win in the playoffs. I don't know how you move the field goals now. You just have to come to an acceptance that Sam Darnold is a damn good quarterback. Last week, the Seahawks destroyed the 49ers so badly, the game was over in the first quarter. They barely even used Darnold. I think he was sitting on the bench by 2/3 point of the game. Last night, Sam was awesome. As I mentioned in the first segment, just the duel that he had, the quarterback duel that he had with Sam Darnold was one for the ages and one of the great playoff quarterbacking games of all time. Now, I think the Viking fan base is starting to reach a level of acceptance that the Vikings made a mistake by not keeping Sam Darnold. I wonder how the players feel. What if you are a Vikings player right now and you're watching that game and you're watching Sam Darnold go pass for pass with a Hall of Fame bound Matthew Stafford and just come up big. What do you think those players are thinking right now about their team, the decision making? They know. Vikings players know. And you wonder how that's going to affect next season. They know it right now. Is it something that will continue to weigh on this organization and its players into 2026? It's possible. I want to give an opportunity to bring on the air my longtime fantasy football weekly co-host, Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson was the first person who, with a public forum, that I heard banging the drum to bring Sam Darnold to Minnesota back when he was a 49er, even before free agency had fully opened. He saw this coming. He's been promoting Sam Darnold all along, and he's been right. And I think you deserve a peacock. Brian Johnson, are you there? Nope.
He hung up on me.
Not there. He hung up on you. Well, dial him back. Let's see if we can get him back, because he has earned the right to talk about his guy. He's got a wide variety of Sam Darnold jerseys in his house. I believe he has got, I don't know if he's got Jets. I think he's got Panthers, Niners, Vikings, Seattle, Sam Darnold jerseys. He also had he texted this to me. He's in Carolina where they have legal sports betting. He had Jake Bobo anytime touchdown, which God bless him for hitting that. Holy cow. I think Jake Bobo had 4 catches on the season. All right, Brian, you there?
What up, Charch? How's it going, man? Good to hear your voice.
Good. I don't know if you heard any of the past segment.
Of course, I've been listening, and I'm speechless. It's been a solid 24 hours football wise. I'll put it that way.
Yep, there is the FFW Peacock, and you've earned it, my man. What was it that originally gave you faith in Sam Darnold when everybody, including me, by the way, I did not want Sam. When they signed Sam, I didn't want Sam to be my quarterback for the Vikings. Now, I changed my opinion over the course of the year, but when they signed him, I didn't want Sam here. You did. Tell me what it was that you saw in Sam Darnold before almost anybody else.
Well, when I first came to the realization of being a Darnold believer a little over 3 years ago, of course, I was petrified, faced an immense amount of ridicule. I do have to give a quick shout out to my good friend, my boy Chuck, better known as Power Trip Bets on this station. Yes. But it was on our show, Charch, your show. It's FFW. It was late in the 22 season. Darnold was on the Panthers that year. He didn't start the season for Carolina. That's when they had Baker and Darnold. But they finally turned to Darnold in like week 12. And long story short, he looked all right. And I remember he had a great matchup against the Bucks. And I used him as a take a chance on me. He was my take on him, and he blew up. And I'm like, I think I believe in this guy. And I went back and I was with everyone else, prior to that. Darnold was a bust. He's a bum. You see him goes, yada, yada, yada. But went back and, looked at his past, and no quarterback. You could transplant any quarterback in NFL history into Sam Darnold's situation, a 20-year-old drafted by the Jets, and I swear this path, no quarterback not only would have succeeded, maybe not even stayed in the league. Would you like to revisit this horror trail that was Sam Darnold?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, so this is Sam Darnold landing with the Jets 2019, something like that?
2018. And by the way, loaded quarterback class 2018. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Sam Darnold, first quarterback to make the Super Bowl out of that class. But yeah, Darnold drafted third by the Jets. Head coach Todd Bowles. For whatever reason, he's still coaching the Buccaneers right now, sinking that ship. But leading receivers, Robbie, then went by Robbie Anderson. Robbie Chosen, Chris Herndon, Quincy Enunwa. Pro Football Focus rated their pass blocking 22nd. 20-year-old in New York. He got mono. Probably went out and had some fun. Awful year. Next year, they hire Adam Gase. Now, hindsight's 2020, of course. Back then, it didn't seem like a nightmare situation. For those who don't know, Adam Gase might be the worst head coach of this century. Had him the next 2 years. Jamison Crowder, Robbie Chosen, Rashad Perryman, Braxton Berrios, Denzel Mims. These are the guys Darnold is dealing with. Goes to Carolina under Matt Rule. I mean, nothing was going his way. And then the turning point was 23. In 2022, the 49ers made the NFC Championship under Brock Purdy, got hurt in that game, needed Tommy John surgery, not guaranteed to start the season. Kyle Shanahan puts all his baskets into Sam Darnold, and Purdy ends up playing that year. But Shanahan was ready to do a battle with Darnold. Vikings get him. The rest is history. I'm honestly I'm so happy for this guy because he's gone through so much more crap than anyone in the NFL. So I don't know. It's crazy, but I am elated. I never thought I would be this big of a Sam Darnold fan, but granted, he's made me a fair amount of money along the way. But
good for you.
All I can say, man. Thanks for having me on.
Well done, my man.
I appreciate you all the kind words.
You deserve the peacock right there. Early Sam Darnold believer, well documented many, many times. Fantasy Football Weekly, mostly us giving you a hard time for your love of Sam Darnold, but it's all paid off now, and he is Super Bowl bound.
One quick nugget I saw. Well, two quick nuggets we got to throw in that are interesting. 26 quarterbacks drafted from USC. Darnold, the first one to make a Super Bowl. And lastly, Darnold's grandpa, one of the original Marlboro men. I'll call him by his official name, Richard Hammer. He did not go by Richard Hammer, though. I'll let you sneak that. So, Sam Darnold, a unit, comes from a unit, bloodline of units.
It's a pedigree, a long line of units. All right. Thank you, my man. It was great to hear your voice again, and you've earned a couple of weeks of enjoyment. I think Sam Darnold is going to be a Super Bowl winner in 2 weeks, but I'm reserving the right to change my mind. But first blush, I believe that's going to be the case.
I hope so, and I believe so too. But they still got to play the game. And before I go, just want to say I love you, Minnesota. I miss you, and I love you. Thinking about you every day, and miss you too, Charch. Thanks for having me on.
You too, my man. Thanks, Brian. When we come back, Fred Minnick is America's premier whiskey expert. He's got 2 different podcasts, The Fred Minnick Show and his podcast with Jared Allen called Fourth and Neat. He's got a new book called Bottom Shelf. We're going to talk a little bit about that. My good friend Fred Minnick joins us when we return.